Hey guys, Katie here. So hopefully you already knew that. But just in case you're stumbling across my video from somewhere other than my channel, it's me. So I get asked a lot, and I wanted to share with you today why I wanted to become a coach. So I've been in corporate America since the late 90s. I was actually a sales engineer for the last 15 years of my career, actually a little off of that, but I was a sales engineer for about 15 years of my career. I was in IT before that. So cybersecurity, IT, electronic techie stuff, that's been my existence for, well, since pretty much before I graduated college. That's been what I wound up in. And this process and becoming a coach actually started in 2011. And for me, it was really, really slow. Anytime that anybody makes a big transition, it's going to be unique to us, all of us, how we get there. And in my case, it was really slow, and then it sped up the past few years, which I get to in other videos. But what really started this path for me, so back in 2011, I was moving back from Washington, D.C. into the Atlanta area again, where I already owned a home. And my friend Wanda from Atlanta had come with me to help me get my cats and everything back. And as we were driving, she starts telling me about a friend of hers and her son, Kenny, and how Kenny is this amazing little boy. Everyone calls him Soldier Boy because he loved everything military, like just loved it. Pretty much probably half the pictures I saw of him, he was in camouflage, and he just was glowing in each one. And what was unique and also heartbreaking about Kenny is that he had something called medulloblastoma or medulla blastoma. For those of you not too familiar with cancer, first of all, I'm really glad that you aren't familiar. Anytime the term blast is in the type of tumor, it's not good. So Kenny had been diagnosed at 7, and he had beaten it once, gone into remission, and was back out. And he was only, I think, 9 or 10 years old at the time. And despite the fact that the story alone had a lot of impact on me, it wasn't really enough for me to take any action yet. And then later that year in 2011 still, for things that I wanted to in my personal life, I actually started, pardon the background noise, I have just moved and my cats are making all sorts of noise in the background. So if you hear anything weird, that's what it is. But anyway, I had made a vow to myself that if it sounded fun, I was going to try it. And so as a result of that, I wound up skydiving, and not just once, but I decided I wanted to do it all the time. And I was not good at it, and I loved it. And this story that I'm about to tell you is one of the reasons why, is because it gave me things and provided things in my life that I would not have had otherwise. So fast forward to 2012, Wanda and I go to a movie, and I ask her about Kenny, and she says that the doctors have given the really sad news that there's nothing else to try. The tumors were actually bigger, and there were more of them. So he had been advised to just live out his life. And that sounded really sad. And, we talked a little bit about stuff that he wanted to do, but we didn't really mention skydiving. And then a couple days, or I'm not sure when it was, but after we got together that night, she sends me a text and she's like, "Hey, Kenny really wants to skydive. Do you think that's possible?" And I'm like, I've heard of it happening with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Let me find out. So I reach out to my drop zone, and long story short, we wound up becoming the first drop zone in the United States without the Make-A-Wish Foundation, to be clear, to legally get a child in the air before the age of 18. So we were super proud of that. It was 6 weeks of pushing and levels of okays that I still look back and I'm like, I have no idea how that happened, other than that it was supposed to. And being a part of it was amazing to everybody who was involved. So as we built up to the event, we started to see more and more compassion, just building in general. So the company I worked for at the time, I told them what we were doing, seeing, if maybe they wanted to sponsor something like that and get some publicity. I didn't know. I had no idea what I was doing along those lines. And that wasn't really something that they were geared to do, but they really wanted to be a part of it. They wound up paying for his mom's jump, because one of his requests had actually been not just for him to jump, but he wanted his mom to jump too, because he wanted to see her, quote unquote, scared to death. She has a child with a brain tumor already, but you know, he is the child, and this was his wish, so she was game. You know, she loves her son even to this day, even though Kenny left us about 8 months after his jump. Anyway, so going back to that, my HR department wound up paying for her jump. The drop zone said, like, when I said, how much would it be to get him in the air? They were like, there's no charge. We just want to be a part of it. He had 2 videographers on the jump because, again, people wanted to be a part of it. And then someone else actually paid to have his mom's video too. So everybody chipped in to make this happen. And again, all the different levels of approval. And I want to give a big shout out to Big Steve Hasseman. If it wasn't for him, he was the SNTA advisor at the drop zone at the time. And he was also the tandem master who took Kenny on his jump. So thank you so much, Big Steve. We both know how much this day meant to us and to everybody. So as we got to the event, we got everything going. And again, it was like moving heaven and earth. We even had a notary come on site. She was married to one of the skydivers, had her notary certificate, and made sure that the waiver got signed, everything above board, so that this kid could skydive and no one could say anything. And he loved it. And watching his family and his friends watch him come in, there was not a dry eye in the drop zone that day. And there's just something so impactful about watching a little boy realize his dream. I may start crying. When you know he's not even going to be there for another year, it's both the gift of being able to give that to him, as well as the emotional pain of knowing why. It was a lot. But the human reaction to it was just awe-inspiring from so many people. So after his first jump, he loved it so much he wanted to go up again. And now, to those of you outside of the skydiving world, you may not realize that no one jumps for free. You've got the pilot to play, you've got jet fuel, no one can actually fly the plane and jump. Like, you kind of need at least 2 people. Like, there's always going to be a cost involved. So even if it's not enough to, you know, if there's not an upcharge, you know, because you don't know a skydiver and businesses need to make money. So if there's an upcharge to do that, there's still a cost. And when the women in Manifest found out that Steve was going to cover the cost of Kenny's second tandem, because he was like, absolutely, we're going up again. She was like, no, I can't let you pay for this. She goes around to all the skydivers that were there, pulls together the money to pay for the second tandem. So it was just absolutely amazing. And then on the way home from the drop zone, and I lived about an hour from the drop zone at the time, a little over, and I cried the whole way home. Like, I remember still getting out of my car and just tears pouring. And part of it was the bittersweetness of the day. Part of it was, again, the awe-inspiring human compassion in the levels that we saw. This big wave of everyone wanting to be a part of this human experience and help bring this kid something that he wouldn't have had otherwise. And when he did pass away later, his mom told me that he had talked about skydiving every day for the rest of his life. And because of Kenny, I had 3 separate fundraisers that I ran, and all combined, they were all for childhood brain cancer and helping to support families that were going through it, and also to help raise money for research. And from that day, and that was in August of 2012 that we got him to jump, I kept thinking, there's something more. There's something more in this life. I want to do something more. I don't want to work with machines now and make people's work lives better. Like, I want to really impact people in this way. And from running the fundraiser, you know, I answered to myself, like, fundraising is definitely not something I want to do full time. Hats off to all of you who do it, because holy crap, that is one of the hardest, most ego-checking exercises I've ever done. Asking people for money over and over again is really hard. And making it compelling, making them want to do it, like, oh my gosh, it's so much work, and hats off to all of you. And I'm going to be honest and say, for my second career, that was not a level of day-to-day effort that I knew I had. But because of Kenny, because of the impact he had on me, I knew I wanted to make a change. So stay tuned to my other videos to hear the next of this path and how this turned into me wanting to be a coach.